Welcome back. It is now time for the Dawn Debates. The stalemates around the IEBC are getting from bad to worse. Opposition leaders are now threatening to take legal action if IEBC does not cancel the tender awarded to Al Ghurair Printing and Publishing Company. In studio, I'm joined by nominated Member of Parliament Isaac Mwaura and Third Way Alliance Party Deputy Chair Eugene Adabwa. But before we get to the debate, let's listen into some of the political exchanges that have been going on regarding this matter.
Information currently in our possession indicates that the firm has long had contact with senior Jubilee officials for at least 3 years.
Any attack against the IEBC is an attack upon an important pillar that it is a guardian of our democracy. We must not be chipping at its body with constant negative rhetoric that undermine its credibility in the court of public opinion.
We also put Jubilee Party on notice, and President Uhuru Kenyatta, together with his family members, herein implicated on notice that they have no business responding on behalf of IEBC.
There are people who want to ensure that due to lack of credibility of a process, and because they know obviously Jubilee is going to take over power, they want to have a crisis where we have a coalition government.
The only option for IEBC is to cancel this tender and award it in accordance with the law to any other reputable international printers that are not associated with any stakeholder in the next election.
Even NASA has a preferred printer called Pearl Media Limited from South Africa.
The contract has been signed, and if you understand the law, every contract has clauses.
All right, so that's what's been going on so far. And just to mention that we are expecting Honorable Peter Kaluma, who should be with us if he makes it on time. But we'll continue with the debate nevertheless. And let me start with you, Eugene Adabwa, on what's happening so far. You're the Deputy Chair for Third Way Alliance, and your thoughts on what's going on so far on the attack on IEBC.
What's going on so far is a little bit funny. In fact, I wonder why it is being called an attack. When there is a concern, why not understand what the concern is? You know, it's really unfortunate that, as we've always said, say as Third Way Alliance, if it's not Jubilee, it's NASA. So simply because NASA has raised it, it is now being called an attack. Yet maybe there is some credibility in whatever is being aired out here. So I guess we need to exercise a lot of sobriety. This thing has not just come from nowhere. We have a history. IEBC has had its own share of concerns, which I know as we proceed, that will be part of what we'll be discussing. But I guess we just need to be sober about this and analyze what these issues are.
Okay, so what's the position for Third Way Alliance, given that if you look at what's happening, you have NASA saying that, well, there are questionable dealings that may have gone on between the president and the people who won the tender. IEBC has come out and said our issue is also time-based, just what the chair has said right there, that one, there's an issue of time. Secondly, the contract is already signed, so there's no backtracking. What's the position of Third Way Alliance? What's the way forward?
To just comment on the two. One, about the contract having been signed, and he rightfully says every contract has its own clauses. Part of these clauses are the exit clauses. I mean, that I've signed a contract with you, and I realize that you're not delivering, or there's other matters that would affect the outcome of my intended output. I mean, I should be able to review my agreement with you. Then you talk of time. Let me just call that lame. I mean, when we promulgated the Constitution in 2010, it didn't come as a surprise that the second Tuesday of every August, after 5 years, we'll be having a general election. So those are just excuses which I think are secondary in the whole matter.
Okay.
For us as Third Way Alliance, I mean, it's really about if the process is not credible, then we need to give it that credibility threshold.
Okay. Let me come to you, Honorable Mwaura. You are on record as saying that it's a plot or a ploy by the opposition, basically to delay the election. You don't think that it's a valid concern?
It's not a valid concern.
Why not?
Because there has been consistency in terms of attacking the IEBC, in terms of attacking the electoral body. In 2007, we had Kivuito. He had to go, he went. We have had Isaac Hassan, the similar allegation. Now we have Chebukati and Chiloba, the same allegation, similar allegations. So there is a pattern that is emerging, that it's either my way or the highway. And that's why I'm saying, because you see, 53 days to the general elections, and you have not agreed on who is going to print your ballots? Is that not really a major concern for this country? The fact that IEBC has had to single source the person to do the contract really shows that there's a crisis. I mean, candidates have already inspected their prototype ballot. Already I can see many of them independents, you know, all of that. And we must not be in this situation that the contestation is something fairly administrative. It's not by law, it's not by anything, it's not about a matter of procedure, it's not even about public procurement. It's basically about individuals and insinuations and, you know, making sweeping allegations, very sweeping allegations against certain personalities just to score politically without any form of evidence.
Okay, as much as that may be valid, what you say, but each case has to be handled on its own merit. Yes, there was the previous commissioners, and for whatever reason, they're not in office today. But that does not mean because that has happened consistently, if there is an issue now, it cannot or should not be raised.
No, I think it's a pattern of what is a constant here. And the constant here is Raila Odinga and his coalition.
But even if it's Raila Odinga and his coalition, it does not make it invalid if there is a question, if it's questionable.
It becomes actually questionable. It is questionable.
Just by virtue of the fact that
it becomes questionable because the consistency with which you question administrative measures that are purely the function of the commission, to the point that you actually say, Mike, that you want to determine who are going to be the returning officers at the constituency level, that is direct interference with the mandate of an independent commission. How is it that you are contesting who gets a tender within a public institution? You must therefore be having some personal interest. Okay. You see, if, for example, let me give you an example. If the Standard Group is procuring these seats that we are sitting on, and then some outside person starts contesting who is getting that, and what is it that we are talking about, even if it's a public body? It doesn't have, not unless yourself you are bidding, you're holding forte for some other, groups. And I would want to ask NASA to declare their interest, their pecuniary interest in this.
Their interest in this case, I would say, then, is free and fair elections.
It's pecuniary.
All right.
And again, I'll remind you guys, Third Way Alliance is not affiliated to NASA. So whatever I'm talking about here is does not have any influence from NASA. This is Third Way Alliance position. So as we discuss, please, let's keep that in mind. And let me get back to you, Isaac. Talk of Kivuito. You've shared about Kivuito. There were issues. Do you believe there were issues at his time that warranted his going home? Of course there were. I mean, he was in charge when we got ourselves into all whatever we did in terms of PEV and all that. Look at Isaac. What is Chicken Gate? You know, that thing has even killed Kenya's image out there. That we can even talk about Isaac. Let's not go there. Now, I remember yesterday when I watched the deputy president daring Musalia Mudavadi to even go and take up Chiloba's position, you know. If NASA wants, they can go and take over Chiloba's position. Do you really think that the executive even respects this institution? I mean, and those are the questions now. That you can be so free, and Chiloba, of course, does not respond. It means the executive actually knows what it's doing. And those are the questions that we must really ask. Let's not just throw, But
Eugene, yes. The thing is here, at this point in time, of the day. We have 52 days to go before the general election. So any accusations that are thrown should be supported with clear documentation or evidence so that it can be moved forward. Don't you feel that the timing and making such statements without necessarily supporting it with whatever documents or evidence that is required is rather suspicious?
Mike, what is the legal provision for whistleblowing? How long, I mean, do we have some time that you're given before you...
We can split hairs here on what the exact law is, but we can also use what I'd call just responsible thinking, because there is the letter of the law, but there's also the spirit of the law.
Yes.
If you bring up something right now and accuse Honorable Mwaura without any evidence, right now on national TV, the damage that you may cause on him, even if you apologize after the show, the damage is done.
And that's the beauty of having a working system. Because if you did that, then there are consequences. Okay? It's not just a question of saying something and being sued for it. You bear the consequences. And again, if we took your approach, that simply means that we are also trying to limit that whistleblowing freedom.
No, it's not limiting the whistleblowing freedom. It's saying if you're going to whistleblow, do it, but do it responsibly, number one, and number two, do it with evidence. But let me come to you, Honorable Mwaura. Given that we only have 52 days, what stops IEBC from cancelling that tender and getting ballot papers printed? I mean, let's face it, it doesn't take 52 days to print the papers.
No, we cannot.
For the sake of credibility.
No, we cannot presuppose that how long it takes to print these papers, because we are not talking about 3 or 4 pieces of paper. It's about the details. You can imagine even a single change in terms of a letter for a candidate, it may cost somebody an election. I saw that during the nomination, so it's a very delicate, and you have over 15,000 candidates in this country who actually have justice by the virtue of how the ballots are presented. And Mike, also to say that when you look at Agurir, the company that is in question, it's the same that supplied the ballots for Homa Bay senatorial by-election. That was not a problem. Malindi, the same. Why is it that it is now? And that's where the question is. And also, when you look at it clearly, you realize that this is not even about the tendering process. Consistently, NASA has been trying to create roadblocks so that we don't have a credible election. Remember, Johan Kriegler said that we should have a commission at least 15 months before an election. The current commission was not set up 15 months prior to the 8th of August. Why? Who went to the streets? It was still CORD then, which now has morphed into NASA. So when you ask me about that each case should be treated with its own merit, I tell you no. I have been long enough in the political arena. I was part of that establishment. I know it inside out. Consistently, the aim, and I have said it and I want to repeat here, is to create a crisis, to ensure that the credibility of the election is done way before the actual exercise, and therefore to either cause a crisis or create a caretaker government or a power-sharing argument. Because what NASA is saying in private is that we have tried it with the Nusu Mkate and it has worked. And I would want to say this. We want a system or a process where there's a clear winner, a political party or outfit that clearly gets the mandates of Kenyans and is able to superintend over public affairs without the interference by other competitors. Because the moment you create a crisis, you even hoodwink your own followers by telling them that they already have won.
Okay.
Even listen, Mike, before the first ballot is cast, you tell them we have 10 million votes. Where are they? Who has printed those ballots, by the way? Where has that election happened?
You've just mentioned...
And Mike, we must not allow that every other time you just survive on pure propaganda. You lie without even flinching. You know, you take Kenyans for a ride You just come and make a sweeping statement against certain personalities just to settle a political scores.
Somebody might accuse you of blowing hot and cold, Honorable Mwaura, and I'll say this because you've just mentioned in your statement that there needs to be no interference from the interested parties. And this is the exact question that is being brought about by NASA.
But without evidence.
Hang on, if these businessmen were in contact with the president, who of course is a major stakeholder when it comes to the elections come August 8th, why there's a question right there of credibility, there's a question of integrity, there's a question of conflict of interest.
There is nothing like that. Those are innuendos, those are speculations, those are mere imaginations, because you cannot say because I met you today, Mike, we were doing business with you. There is a reason as to why you meet people and for whatever purpose. I do not want to imagine that because you met somebody in a function, you are discussing a ballot tender process. The president has no influence on how IEBC awards tenders. Do you want to tell me that the president has an influence on all the businesses that are done at IEBC? It is pure propaganda.
All right, Eugene?
I think we can all hear for ourselves. The thing is, when we claim that the president did not meet and yet there's graphic evidence, I'm not privy to whatever the discussions were, but we know how things have worked in the past. And that's why we must give room for the same institutions that we want to respect to play their part. Okay. So if there's a concern, is it that we don't have institutions to deal with this in Kenya? We do. Why not just give them the chance? And let me remind my good friend Isaac that this matter is not between NASA and Jubilee. Our position is as Third Way Alliance.
So what is your position as Third Way Alliance?
We must...
That the tender must be cancelled?
The tender must be cancelled.
On what grounds?
On the grounds that there's
on mere allegations.
Interference. Look, even Chicken Gate was an allegation.
Interference from where and by who?
From the executive.
How?
Is there evidence to prove that? Is there anything
or just
that has
a mere
been
photo,
tabled?
which can also be photoshopped anyway?
Look, the point is this. We must give the institutions that are charged with the responsibility to go ahead and do their work.
And isn't what you're suggesting going against exactly what you're saying? That is interference. Because you're saying they must cancel because there are allegations that there was interference by the executive. You're saying that that institution should be left to operate independently. How independent is when you come and say, no, this must be cancelled? On what grounds will Third Way Alliance come in and say it should be cancelled?
But I've shared with you that there is evidence that the president met one of the directors.
Is Third Way Alliance in possession of that evidence?
Which evidence is this? Can you table that evidence? You know, we cannot come on national television and say because we've taken a photo, the three of us, Eugene, Isaac, and Mike here, we were discussing about the affairs of a certain entity.
I'll say this again.
Now I can also say that Raila should also show us his passports, whether he has been to South Africa.
Isaac, there was confession that the guy who was met by the president is in charge of the cement business of the outfit and not the printing. Have you researched about that company?
No, but let me ask you. Well, even better. If you say that it was in charge about stuff, how does cement have to do with IEBC?
And that's why we need to give these institutions their time to investigate.
I would want to imagine that you cannot raise Third Way Allowance. I don't know if that is the third way that you want to go about it, but you cannot make wild allegations about individuals who have not even been able to be called to question, and then you start saying, because then every time when we are doing something, somebody will just make an allegation, and that will be what we'll have to go by.
Third Way Alliance is making no allegations. Third Way Alliance is saying this. There is enough information out here which has been raised in the form of a whistleblower that warrants that investigation.
So are we basing what is Third Way Alliance basing what you're saying on information or evidence? We need to be clear.
And who is a whistleblower also?
Call it NASA as the whistleblower.
Or Raila Odinga, who is an interested player in fact, one of the presidential candidates.
And I'll say this again, Isaac, that the fact that one source is constantly looking out or sharing information doesn't mean that it is wrong. Let us interrogate the substance of the matter. Let us not interrogate the personalities.
I think
I'm really trying to avoid. Avoid personalities.
I think that way alliance is an affiliate of NASA, clearly from the example, because you seem to be taking cue from Raila Odinga.
No, but Honorable Maura, I think
overall party leader.
In all fairness, let's talk about the credibility of IEBC, because at the end of the day, a referee has to be viewed, and the perception is reality.
Exactly.
And we know that in politics, that even becomes more pronounced. So if IEBC is already in question, that is throwing us into a dangerous spin right now.
I don't think so. I don't think so, absolutely, because if you want to tell me that the danger is that when NASA makes a pronouncement against the person of IEBC,
not that NASA...
it is NASA, obviously.
No, okay, it is NASA that has made a pronouncement, but a valid pronouncement.
There is no validity. There is no validity, Mike. This is just pronouncements that are sheerly made to create a pandemonium. It's a propaganda machine. We know very well that NASA is only thriving on propaganda.
Why can't IEBC state this?
But
why is it that Jubilee must be defending
it's not IEBC a question of Jubilee has a right to respond when the actions of the person of the president is put down by a competitor. Number two, you are attacking Chiloba. You are attacking Chebukati. Then who do you want to superintend over elections? Does it mean that these people they come from Western Kenya, then they have no capacity to lead this commission?
I think Western Kenya coming in there, I'm not sure where it comes in.
But that's the point.
The thing is, the question that I'd like you to address is the question of perception, the question of IEBC being an independent body, and of course when the president, if at all it is true that he met with some of these guys, there's the question of why. What was discussed?
Mike, the President of the Republic of Kenya has met so many people. In fact, even yesterday, the President met a little girl in Londiani.
We should have been in school.
And this girl wanted to meet. This girl wanted to meet her president. That is how accessible our president is. And so therefore, to cast aspersions on who the president meets because of your political interest and because of propaganda must also be countered with the strongest terms possible.
Mike, may I kindly paraphrase your question so that he responds to it? Why? Why would the president meet this person who has links to whatever contract we are discussing here? The question is not who does the president meet. The question is why. And if the president even has advisors, he knows that if he meets these people, there's bound to be spanners in the works.
All right, let's move this conversation forward.
No, Michael, before we move there, we cannot, and I will not allow that when you meet somebody, then the question would be that why have you met that person?
No, I'm talking of an institution, not an individual. This is not a private visit.
There is not institution. You represent an institution. I represent one. You represent another one.
Yes.
When we come and sit on this table and discuss national matters,
yes,
you cannot therefore ask the reason as to why we met.
But because if you ask me why, I'll tell you we've met to discuss.
When Kitoni is the one who actually introduced this individual to the president, you have rightly said that it is about cement. How does cement have to do with the IEBC?
Please, you keep telling us the names.
No, the question is, we must not cast aspersion on the person of the president. That I must defend at all costs.
Nobody is doing that anyway.
No,
all right, so moving the conversation forward, Honorable Maura, what do you suggest as the way forward? Should what NASA has raised be completely ignored and we continue, despite the fact that there are those who may feel that there are questions of conflict of interest being raised?
We cannot have a situation where every time someone makes allegations against individuals, wild allegations, then the only way is to do away with these individuals. And I think I may also want now to agree with Isaac Hassan, who at some point said that Raila Odinga has developed a character of assassinating other people's professions, just out of wild allegations, if he seems to feel like he's not having his way. The people who are going to determine who is going to be the next president of this Republic are Kenyans. It's not the ballot papers.
It's not the ballot papers, but it needs to be free. It needs to be free and fair.
And that is what
it needs to be free and fair.
that is what Jubilee stands for.
And
all right.
the matter is on IEBC credibility, not Raila Odinga. Let's focus.
And IEBC is credible. The IEBC is credible.
So
and the moment you start
Odinga,
attacking the institution of the IEBC, we must question that.
Please, Isaac,
all right.
keep Raila Odinga out of this.
We cannot keep Raila Odinga out of this. He's the one who started with these rumors and propaganda.
Please, let's...
Not unless you are an affiliate of NASA.
All right, gentlemen, question to you, Mwaura, before I come to you, Eugene. Why can't IEBC, for the sake of perception and credibility, and for everybody to be on the same boat, cancel the tender? After all, like the Deputy President said, it does not matter who prints those papers. What does it take to print papers in 52 days?
I think
for crying out
personally,
loud?
that decision rests with the IEBC. And I'm sure they have their own internal mechanism as to resolve as to how to go about this issue. However, it is also going to set a very dangerous precedent that countermands, formal procedures of doing what needs to be done. So it's a very dangerous precedent if they just take wild allegations from the streets and then they just decide to implement for purposes of being seen to be fair and transparent.
All right, Eugene, the way forward here for you from Third Way Alliance is basically it has to be cancelled. Despite the timing that we have. We only have 52 days to go.
The decision to cancel, I wouldn't want it pegged on the timing and all that. Huh? It's really about...
How can it not be pegged on the timing? Because come August 8th, the elections must go on.
Just like you said, I don't think 52 days is a short time to have these papers done. I mean, and rightfully, these guys, IEBC is simply single source. They can still do the same if they want to. I mean, you simply need to involve all the stakeholders in this matter to establish a clear way forward.
Okay. And involving the stakeholders here, in your opinion, does not come as interfering with an independent body? No.
Let me tell you what. In fact, embedded and integrated within our constitution is participation. Is participation. Call them Jubilee, call them NASA, call us Third Ways, call whatever party, including the independents and the citizens, must be involved in the process. That is the only way that you'll have people nurturing this trust. Chebukati himself said, the problem that we have with the Kenyans and IEBC is that the trust was eroded. You simply need to build that trust by having all these people involved. I think that is the best way forward.
All right, Honorable Mwaura, has IEBC, in your opinion, done anything to at least try and build confidence in the institution, despite the problems that they have had? They don't seem to have done much to, try and win public confidence.
Not really, because if you look at even the opinion surveys that have been done over time, people have had confidence with the new IEBC. You've seen IEBC even sacking some of its staff who, according to public communication, have not been involved in ways that would be seen to be very transparent. And so, in my opinion, this is a new body. They have settled in very quickly. They've had to quickly learn how to do their job. And they are ready to go ahead and have a free and fair election. I want to give them the benefit of the doubt. We must build institutions. We must not be seen to be attacking the person of the chairperson of IEBC, Wafula Chebukati, and Ezra Chiloba. I think these are credible Kenyans who have the best interests of the country at heart and who are stopping at nothing at ensuring that all players have been given a fair chance, including every other presidential candidate. Even just, is it yesterday, they were all given security. So I think let us move in the spirit of trust, mutual trust. But if then you, for example, look at the political question and you can see that you are losing out, Mike, then you start introducing other sideshows to divert attention from the real issue, creating perceptions that you know very well because you have supporters. You do not want them to believe in the process for purposes of questioning the outcome of elections way in advance. And by the way, Mike, don't ignore what we are saying because it's out of experience. These are people who have been in the political arena for far too long that they are predictable. So we are not just saying things for political gain. We would want a system where and the president has said for the 18th time, that if he is not elected as president of this republic, he is willing to concede defeat.
Okay.
But we have not had the same from NASA.
All right, I want us to take a short break. When we come back, we'll have our closing comments and also see how to move this conversation forward. I also have Honorable Kaluma in the studio, and he's going to be joining us shortly as we close up on this. If you have your comments, please do send them through on Twitter. I'd like to see whether we can read through them before we finish our dawn debate. So we'll take a short break. When we come back, let's close in on this. And the subject at heart is the IEBC. We'll be right back.